One of the things I would say is before I arrived in Cambodia, most of the news that I read, or I think in my lifetime before I came to Cambodia, I'd seen 3 news stories about Cambodia.
Okay.
All 3 of them being negative.
All 3 of them being negative.
Yeah. So coming to Cambodia and having not that much information to go on, but this fairly kind of negative image that's been created in my head, that was something that I wanted to challenge. And I think that is something that needs challenging, because my experience, we talk about, the needs that were, that you could find when you come to Cambodia. But actually, I was in need. When not long after arriving in Cambodia, I got very sick with dengue fever.
Right.
And rather than me being able to give to someone, I needed help. I didn't know people very well.
I want to zoom into that a little bit.
Yep.
Because this is 6.5 years ago, so pre-COVID.
Yep.
And you came here, you didn't really know that many people, right?
No. I knew at this point maybe 4 or 5 people. I'd moved into a village. I was planning to go to Pasat to do some volunteer work. But I'd been in India before. I had dysentery, so it kept me in Phnom Penh for a little while.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
And then shortly after that, I got dengue fever.
Okay, so you were here, and you were kind of in a rural community setting.
Well, actually, I was in Phnom Penh, but in Phnom Penh, you've got lots of what we call Sangats.
Districts.
Districts. And within a lot of these districts, you actually have a village vibe. So even though you're in the big city, you really feel like you're part of a village and part of the community. So I'd been in this community near to Wat Phnom for about 2 months.
Okay.
And came down with dengue fever. I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah, dengue fever is mosquito-borne. Yeah. And it's not, for adults, it's not like life-threatening or anything. And throughout Southeast Asia, there is some dengue fever. Now it's not nearly as prevalent as it used to be, but even places like Singapore and stuff like that, which are very modern cities, they struggle with it.
My immune system was very much weakened at this point, having had dysentery. I'd been quite ill for a number of months, and I was just on the up when this happened. So I didn't really know what was wrong. I was very sick. I was in my house. I tried to get out to go and get some water, and some of my neighbours saw me on the street looking very sick.
That you didn't really know your neighbours even that well, did you?
Not that well. I knew the person I was renting the apartment I'd taken from, and I call her Mama Greenwall, but she ran Mama Greenwall because she ran the cafe that was next to my house.
They had a green wall.
Well, it's called Greenwall Cafe. So and everyone calls her Mama. You're not allowed to know her name. It's just Mama.
Okay.
And she saw me walking down the street, and she came up to me, Kevin, what's wrong? Told me to go home, and then brought me water. This is an old lady, and she told my landlady. Then they would take it in turns. So Mama from Greenwall would come in the morning and bring me bobasaur and water and feed me, and then my landlady would come in the evening and do the same. And they kept me going until I could get to hospital, until I could get some treatment. And so when I hear of the needs of Khmer people, regardless of how much need there is, I found there's always this willingness to give, and that for me put an emphasis on me giving back. So I try to focus on these things, and that's meant that I've really focused on the here and now of Cambodia rather than the past.
Right. That's amazing, and that's really the way I think so many of us desire and believe that humanity is supposed to be. That's the way humanity is supposed to be. And I'm not being critical of any society or any culture, because there's a lot of demands out there, and when you're living in suburbia or wherever, and there's all these demands, and you just don't know, you're not accustomed even how to help people necessarily, and you just say, well, that's these guys, and that's the government's job.
Very insulated.
Yeah. But here, it's normal lifestyle, isn't it? That we got some, British guy living in our little community, and he's sick, and so not even sure how we spell his name exactly, and what exactly he's doing here, but he seems like another human being like us, and so let's make sure we can take good care of him.
That was the thing. They couldn't stand the idea that I might be sick and on my own. When I went to hospital, I needed someone to be in hospital with me the whole time I was in hospital.
Right.
So the few people I did know, they started sending various family members that I'd never met. I would wake up from my sort of days in bed and there'd be some new guy sat at the end of the bed that I'd never met before.
New caregiver.
Yeah.
New caregiver, volunteer caregiver from your community that you didn't know from Adam.
These people weren't even from my community now. Now we're stretching out to friends and, distant connections that I've just made here who are reaching out to family members who have got some spare time to come in.
Yeah.
And I remember reading a book, I think it was the beginning of 2018, maybe end of 2017. It's called Lost Connections. And it was looking at how, in the Western world, there's this sort of increase in mental health problems. A lot of people are suffering from depression and anxiety. And a lot of that is due to a lack of connections, so the lost connections within their community.
Right.
Now, I felt pulled into a community in a way that I don't think I've ever felt in England, really. And I've got great friends and family, but to have so many strangers that couldn't stand to see me on my own, to be prepared to come and stay a night in hospital, to help wash me, to look after me when I was really at this point where I was very weak.
Yep.
How could I not give something back after that?
It's incredible. I heard, and this is a little bit outside of Cambodia, but I believe that it goes along with what we have experienced here in Cambodia. We talk about East and West, but there's also and maybe there's even some books or articles, I'm sure there are out there, and they talk about temperate versus tropical. And the difference in cultures.
The global north.
Yeah. And so there are difference in cultures. And I remember quite a while ago I heard a story or a situation where there was a North American executive, and he was running his corporation like a shiny whistle. He had it. It was a smooth running machine, and it was very structured and very focused. And I think in his town there was another, possibly maybe a Hispanic brother that was also running a similar type of business, but he was running it very kind of more family style and lacking a bit of structure and all of that. And so anyway, somehow the two of them in the same industry became friends. And so you have this very structured business, and then you have a more kind of less structure but more relational orientated. And long story short, the two of them ended up learning a ton from each other. Yeah. So if I remember the details, the Hispanic business owner, he learned a lot more about, the importance of, planning and clear execution, and all of that, reporting and all of that. He learned that. But the other business owner, he learned a lot more about the value of relationships and taking time to connect and to build relationships and what we call build community. And I think this is one of the things that for so many of us that have originated from outside of Cambodia somewhere, including many of our guests. We have, of course, many local guests as well, but many of our guests that have originated from outside of Cambodia that we find so unique and refreshing.